Before we commence, I'd just like to take a moment and acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Noongar Whadjuk people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Special thanks to PLWA Libraries and Echo Publishing for making this evening with Fiona and Mike a possibility tonight. Now, just a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. Obviously, join audio to hear the conversation, pretty obvious. And please ensure that your microphone and camera are on mute, or your cameras are on nothing and your microphone's on mute, and change your view to speaker view just for a better experience with Zoom. And if you have any questions for Fiona and Mike, please feel free to send them through using the Zoom chat function. The library staff are monitoring the questions, and your questions can also be emailed to questionsfortheauthor@gmail.com. And so tonight begins. Hi guys, just so you all know, we're very good friends, and I was meant to be at Fiona and Mike's place tonight to host this wonderful event, but instead we're all in our bedrooms. So enjoy your wonderful lives over in Western Australia. We're doing the best we can. And so we're here tonight to celebrate the incredible book called The Pickup, which is the sequel to The Drop-Off, although you don't need to read The Drop-Off to enjoy The Pickup. I've read both. I was lucky enough to be in the web series of The Drop-Off, and we're here to chat about The Pickup. Hi, Fiona and Mike. Welcome. Hi.
We wish you were here sitting with us, but you're here on the wall. Look.
I am.
Oh, yeah.
You're with us in the frame.
How are you both this evening?
We are fine because we've got a little bit of a nice little drink. It's, you know, it's a Thursday night, so we're close to the weekend. The children are happily watching their shows in their rooms.
Hello, friends that have just jumped in. We've only
hello.
just started.
We've only just started.
Missed anything?
No.
Nothing.
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 Hanging on.
So obviously I'll be asking you questions, but it'll get loose because you know how it gets with us. So I'll keep it formal initially, and then it'll, you know, who knows what will happen.
Right.
Who knows what's in my mug.
There's a guitar behind me. So you just
But I guess the first question for you guys, I think, was like, I guess the first thing would just be, you know, tell us a little bit about The Pickup, and maybe sort of delve into The Drop-Off a little bit, but more just, you know, tell everyone what The Pickup's about, what your inspiration was, and just sort of talk a little bit about the book.
Right. Do you want me to do the brief overview?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically started as a web series called The Drop-Off, about a bunch of parents who sat around and, you know, talked about what was going on in their lives. They were a little bit naughty, a little bit, you know, not your normal kind of nice parents. And that was a web series that we made, and then we got approached by my kids' book publisher and asked if we wanted to turn it into a novel, which we were thrilled about and also terrified about because we've never written a novel. I've written lots of kids' books, but this was a very big difference. And so, yeah, The Drop-Off came out last year at the start of COVID. Good timing. So our book launch was cancelled, but that was okay because people were still buying books online, we realised, and going to the library and getting books from the library. So then we got approached by a publisher halfway through last year and said, do you want to write a sequel? And basically what we've done with the books is just expanded the world of the Drop-Off web series. So characters that a character that Pia plays is called Nicola. She's
lovely lady.
No, not so much. She's in there. She's in the books. But we just got to expand our main characters' worlds and go into their lives with a bit more detail, which was a lot of fun. Do you want to add anything?
Sure. It's a bit of a love letter to community, which is something that we were really inspired by when we wrote the first book, and even more inspired by when we wrote The Pickup. Because The Drop-Off was written in a pre-pandemic world. The Pickup was written in a pandemic world. So all of a sudden, when The Drop-Off came out at the start of the first lockdowns last year, we managed to write this sort of accidental nostalgia piece about people congregating in one spot and just chewing the fat, shooting the breeze, having a cup of coffee.
There we are. See that on the wall? That's
yeah.
the poster from the Drop-Off web
Yeah,
series. Look how happy we were out in the world next to each other.
And so when we wrote the pickup, we made a conscious decision, because the obvious choice we had to make was, okay, so if we're writing another book with these people and in this world, do we include coronavirus? And instantly we thought, no, this is fiction. We want this to still to maintain that love letter to community and togetherness and belonging. And so that's why we really decided to amp up that thematically amp that up in the second book.
Did that answer your question of what it's about?
It did. And I'm glad you didn't include it, because I think for me it was such a nice reprieve from listening, talking, reading about coronavirus. And I think I know, just because I know you guys, I know that the book really reflects your real life, which I think is why it works so well, because of the people, the school community that you're a part of. I can really see, that in the book. And I think that's why it really warmed my heart, because I think a lot of us with little kids, we don't really celebrate that part of life enough.
Yeah, and
those little things. And especially now in COVID, you're in isolation for a week, someone drops off sourdough or a bottle of wine or that kind of stuff. It makes a difference. So with the pickup, did you always have ideas to do a pickup novel, or was it because that the Drop-Offs was such a success that you got approached?
Yeah, well, ideally you always hope that you're going to get asked to write a second book. And there were rumblings of us possibly writing another novel, but that would have nothing to do with the Drop-Off. But then, because I think people were really craving light-hearted reading that made them feel good and have warm and fuzzies in COVID, that's maybe why the Drop-Off resonated with so many people last year. And off the back of that, obviously there was some great sales, and that's why the publisher came back and said, maybe you could write a sequel. And we thought, oh, sure, but no idea. We had no ideas of where to start with that, like where we would pick up. We actually ended up, thank you very much. We actually ended up jumping 2 years ahead from where the Drop-Off ended. So the Drop-Off finishes, and then when we start the pickup, we're 2 years later.
So was it a long writing process, or were you sort of under the pump?
Under the pump.
And was COVID a benefit because you had no distractions, or a negative because you have a lot of distractions?
No, I think ultimately it helped, because number one, we were in the midst of the mega Melbourne lockdown last year. And so just the simple fact of having a project to focus on was a real blessing, and something that we were really passionate about, and something that we were, after making the web series, which is of course, short form, audio visual, almost like elongated sketches, not so much in the second season, but the chance to go deep into these people's worlds was so much fun, which was why when we finished the first book, we both sort of thought, God, we could do another one of those. We know these people so well now. We love them. We know the sound of their voices. We know the rhythm of their speech. We know them and we love them. So the opportunity to write another book was incredibly welcome. But then when it was made clear that ideally they'd like it before the end of the year, and this was in about July, that was
scary.
That was a bit intense, because normally you'd want to have about a year, to crank out the first draft of your 80,000 word book. But I suppose in lockdown, time loses all meaning, and you just compress it and elasticize it as you see fit. And that's what we did.
Or you just lock yourself in the office for hours on end.
Well, that's the weird thing about lockdown, because you can be, you have so much time, but then it can sort of really affect your motivation. So I think it's a real credit to you too that you actually got something done in lockdown.
Well, it was not easy, I would say. It was very challenging. And also I'm someone who likes to write out in the world. I like to write in cafes. I like the noise and the hum around me while I'm writing. And so to have to sit in a room with, this room.
Right here, this desk.
Yep. And I just had to get into a routine. I just had to force myself to learn how to write in this environment instead of out there. And it took a few days to sort of let that kick in. And then once it did, as any writer knows, then you're off. As soon as your body and your brain know, all right, we're going to sit here and do this every day at this time, that's when it all starts to sort of, I'm not saying it was easy, but that made that process a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I was going to get Fiona a T-shirt made that said, "Get out and shut the door." Because that's all we all heard. The kids at recess and lunchtime, and me, whenever we'd pay her a visit.
Yeah.
Every
Get out and shut the door.
Get out and shut the door.
Every time it was recess or lunchtime, because obviously in Melbourne we were all remote learning, all the kids, I would hear the footsteps coming down the hallway, and I knew that door was about to fly open, and it did. And they would either get out, or they'd say, come on, come and hang out with me while I have recess or lunch. And I'd say, all right. And that was my break.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that stuff is hard, just negotiating, also being with your kids, working, staying motivated, all that stuff in lockdown's really difficult. Sometimes just doing the simplest thing like a 10-minute walk can be really hard. So yeah, I think I can kind of, weirdly, when I read the book though, I feel like it's very inspired. So there's something, maybe it's the nostalgia of you guys missing your old life, but there's something, it's a lot more action-packed. I mean, the drop-off is amazing, but this is really action-packed, and there's something very inspiring about the whole book. And it was really like watching a TV show with all your best friends.
It was nice to be back in the room with them, so to speak. Like, it was really nice to be back with them. And we always said the second book, we wanted to raise the stakes and have a little bit more drama and a little bit more, we wanted more depth in there. Yeah.
I mean, these characters are so amazing, and I sort of know the answer to this a little bit, but are they based on real characters? Are all of them based on real characters? Are some of them based on real characters? Who's Nicola?
Nicola's just you.
I mean, the inspiration, just for all of our lovely attendees at this, the inspiration for Nicola came because Fiona and I were working with Pia on a TV show called Mustangs. And as with many of Pia's screen roles, she is cast to exhibit and amplify the angelic human that she is. So we were just like, hey, Pia, how would you feel about playing an abject bitch? And she was like, yes, bring it on. And because she's a consummate goddamn actor, she turned up for this shoot, for the drop-off, and it was kind of beautiful to watch. It was so much fun because it's a side of Pia Miranda that Australian viewers sort of haven't had the chance to see. So we were,
unless you watch Survivor.
No, but unfortunately, that's just the real you, Pia. You can't hide that. But yeah, of course, a lot of the characters are inspired by
people we knew,
people we've met, people we know, and then we take
little bits,
the elements of them that we think are the most entertaining and just dial them up to 11. So the inspiration for us always comes from real people, because that's sort of the beginning of the building blocks of a great character. But then we take them in whatever direction we.
But really, one of the main characters, Lizzie, is pretty much me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except that I only have 2 kids instead of 4, and my husband isn't a tradie.
Sorry.
Apart from that, Lizzie's, and I'm not a midwife, but apart from that, Lizzie's personality is pretty much mine.
And I'm pretty much Sam.
Without
the horrible wife.
Thank you.
That's why I took Fiona as a building block and then extrapolated upon that to make a nightmarish version of her for the book.
But I feel like you guys approach your character building or creating character the same way you do as actors. You take a little bit of someone, you use a little bit of truth from yourself. You're always stealing little bits and pieces. Do you find that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
It really is. I really do believe that it's. I mean, for us anyway, as writers, it's the only way to create characters that that really have flesh and blood and soul. It has to come from a place of reality first. Yeah. I don't know that personally. Maybe Fiona feels differently. I personally don't feel like I could just create a fictional character from scratch and imbue them with what's necessary without taking from people I know and experiences I know.
I could.
Well, I think that's why it works so well, because you guys being actors, I think you definitely can sense that you're using that experience to create these great characters. And with the writing, do you do a character each? Do you share the load? Like, are you doing Sam, Mike, or Fiona?
Yeah. So Mike, so the way the book is written, for those who haven't read it, we've got a chapter. We've got the three main characters, and each character has a chapter. Lizzie's characters are all in first person. Megan's chapters are in third person, and Sam's chapters are emails. So Mike wrote all of Sam's emails, all his chapters. I wrote Lizzie and Megan's chapters, but basically before that I did kind of an outline of the entire book, and then I would sort of give Mike sort of dot points of, all right, for this chapter you just need to cover this and this, and the rest of it, go for your life, do whatever comes out of your head.
Right.
And there's a lot of weird stuff that came out of that head. For anyone who's read the book, Sam can be a bit warped, which is just Mike, because he's a bit warped.
It was a great freedom to have. But I mean, the interesting thing in that process was that because Fiona is very much the story engine, she's the one who can create these long narrative arcs. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not what I'm good at. So the emails was her idea, because it was basically the best way for her to be able to write the story that she wanted to write. And let me do what I'm good at without getting in her way.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Isn't that's true?
Pretty much.
But it works because it's a nice break. I think it's a nice break from the, it sort of breaks up the book in a really nice way.
Yeah,
just having this sort of
prose.
Breaks up.
Sam drunk emails is something that, I mean, you write drunk very well, Mike.
Thanks.
And we've had a few people who've listened to the audiobook say, oh my God, Mike's drunk chapters, like his acting. And I'm like, I haven't even heard it. I haven't listened to it.
It's the role I've been preparing for my entire life.
I'll have to listen to it just to hear I don't need to hear you playing drunk. I'm saying it in real life.
You'll hear it in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Every night.
Yeah. And with the pickup, because it is, I just said action-packed.
Action-packed.
And I can't give too much away, but I think that it would make a great TV show. Are there any plans? And, I'm not saying that just because I'm an out-of-work actor in lockdown. I mean, whatever. Oh, Nicola's in it? Oh, my gosh, I had no idea. Look, but it would make a great TV show. Have you got any plans to make a TV show?
When David E. Kelly and Nicole Kidman come knocking on our door, we'll think about it. Let's just put it that way.
Don't recast me with Nicole Kidman or I'll be real.
No, there's no recasting Pia Miranda. No. I mean, it's been a really strange kind of reverse engineered sort of journey, because often it's literary works that are adapted into screen works.
He's already drunk.
But suddenly we made a we just made a web series. Oh. And that wasn't a real burp. She's pretending to think that stuck.
Acting.
We made a web series that we then got approached to turn into a book, and now we've made 2 books. So we can very much see how those stories could make their way back to the screen, but unless some really
David E. Kelly
cashed up broadcasting philanthropist comes at us with a bucket load of money, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, it would really make a good TV show though, because I think it reads, what I liked about it is in lockdown I get quite sick of watching TV, but it reads like a TV show.
Yeah, well, people have said that, and which is very lovely to hear. We've had a lot of people say that they could very easily see it as a mini series or something. So look, we can only hope. And Nicole would not hold a candle to you, Pia. So as if
what you keep suggesting Nicole would even? Nicole's not even in the picture.
No. Maybe Nicole's watching tonight.
I would much rather give Keith Urban his breakthrough screen that's where the pickup is going to serve a greater cultural purpose.
I don't think Keith's into acting.
Keith, he isn't yet. Once he reads this book.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
World's our stuff.
He'd need a haircut.
He could be one of the camp counselors or something. And just with that, with sort of talking about camp, and I can't really give away too much about what happens in the book, because there's sort of spoiler alerts and a lot goes on. But, you know, I think that comedy, there's just a healthy dose of cynicism in the book, which is where the comedy comes from, which is what I love. But there's also this very definite sense of hope and sentimentality that I think grounds it as well. And I just wanted to know, because I know you two, so we like to be a little cynical and a little dry together, but is hope very important in your work as writers, as actors, as performers?
Yeah.
Just that sense of hope.
Yeah, everything we've ever written, and we've both written a lot together and separately, whether it's stage shows for the comedy festival or helping out on TV shows or books or whatever it may be, everything we write has to have heart in it. It has to have sentimentality. Humour and heart are kind of the main ingredients for everything we write. I personally am just not into the bleak kind of, there's no happiness, there's no hope, there's, in my opinion, there's no point. Why would I want to read that if, you know, I
but also there's a real proliferation of comedy that's based on memes. And I feel like it's a really easy target for comedy. Like, just people being a bit shitty can be really funny, but if it's not undercut with more than that, then it's just not going to ring true for an audience for any length of time.
Yeah, if a character's just mean and there's no turnaround or there's no reason as to why that character's mean and there's no redeeming qualities whatsoever, I've got no interest.
Even if they're mean, you need to get to know why they are and recognise that in yourself and see something beyond their behaviour that makes you want to invest in those characters and that story more than just them being mean to people for comedic benefit.
Like even Sam's wife, Bridget.
Bridget.
Hilarious. She's not the nicest. She's a little bit of a, you know, nasty one. But we know why. We understand why, because when you read the book, you find out. And even Nicola has her own backstory in our minds.
Even Nicola.
We haven't explored it yet, and we know why she's the way she is. So I feel like there needs to be a reason.
Yeah, I think so too, because, like, you know, we're dealing with so much negativity and nastiness in our online lives, especially that's definitely amplified during COVID. And so I think but for people like us, cynicism is great, and we all have a dry sense of humour. So when you layer that with hope and essentially the theme of love, that's when it really works for me on a deep level as well, because you know, I just think,
because I mean, like you say, even when it comes to like having a cynical sense of humour, it kind of becomes about the intent behind whatever joke that's made. And if the intent is purely, not necessarily cruelty, but if the intent is just like undercutting or always undermining, it's just not as good a joke unless you know the character and you know the person, you know where it's come from and understand them more deeply, which is a more complicated thing to try and achieve as a writer and even as a comedian, as a stand-up comedian or in any level of comedy. So yeah, we always try and add those exact layers that you're talking about, where it's not just superficial mean jokes. Even if it's a mean joke, we want our readers to understand where it's coming from and its purpose overall.
Well, I think it works because, you know, I think a lot of whenever we're mean in our lives, it's generally coming from a sense of frustration. And so I think that reads in the novel. It's like, not that, you know, no one's a bad person when they're lashing out or whatever. It's just that everyone's a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
And so it's not mean for the sense of being mean. at all.
That's good to hear. Thank
yes,
you.
and even with Nicola, you know, people like that, there's definitely a depth to her, or, you know, sometimes Lizzie can get a bit peeved, but we know why. She's got 4 kids and she's working, you know, a really intense job, and I think that stuff is sort of what makes it so likable, and why, you know, having those really fleshed out characters is such a great experience. Just with the comedy stuff, like, who are your inspirations, like comedically, like writing, visually, you know?
I would say for me, the king and queen, be Ricky Gervais and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. They're my king and queen of comedy writing.
Bow down, bow down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for me. Mike McLeish.
Yeah, Fleabag was an absolute revelation, as it was of so many people. I've been a huge fan of stand-up comedy for a long time. You know, going back to George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. I remember first seeing Raw and Delirious and just being like, what is happening on my television?
On your VHS?
On my VHS.
Or your beta?
No, I didn't have beta.
Really?
No, I didn't. No one had beta.
My nana had beta.
Did she? I just found that really awkward when people had beta.
Yeah, Nana had beta and then very quickly realised that there were very limited options. So her 3 grandchildren, me included, convinced her to get VHS. And life as we knew it changed forever.
God, you were so progressive.
I was so progressive in the 80s.
I think that stuff, like, you know, with Delirious and all those early comedians, and just remember like hiring and rehiring those videos and just watching them over and over, and then trying to learn those comedic rhythms.
Yeah, I did the same with the pirate movie.
Oh,
Christopher Atkins. I was
the deep dive into our.
And you know what? That was filmed at Werribee Mansion. There's a trivia for you. Yes.
Because not a lot of people know that Lizzie is an inner Westie.
Yeah, she is a Westie.
I guess most people here are from Western Australia, but inner west of Melbourne is an area called Altona North, which is where I live.
And where I was brought up.
So I'm living Lizzie's life now.
You are. And Lizzie's life.
Give me a happy ending every time.
That's from the pirate movie, just in case no one knows.
Love that movie.
Love it.
Love it.
Worst film.
No, it's no.
Oh my God, you just deafened me.
Yeah, you deserved it. Undermining
because what
the
I'm saying
the
is the
movie.
children, I showed the girls the pirate movie a few years ago and they were like, what?
Yeah, but also
I hate that.
Imagine showing our kids Delirious and Raw.
I reckon they'd love it.
No, I reckon they'd be into it.
Eddie Murphy, if Eddie Murphy did either of those sets now, he would be cancelled forever.
Yeah, but
that's true.
I still think they'd love it.
But I hate it when you love something and then you show people, like I showed one of my best friends who I think is like such a great comedian. I showed him Heathers, you know, the original movie.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant.
Like, Heathers, I love this. I live for this film. And he sat there just going,
oh, what?
The whole film. That's and at the end, something broke between us.
You can't be friends with him anymore.
When you said goodbye at the end of that night, it was more than just see you later.
It was like the Hunger Games goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Have a good life.
Right.
I digress. So getting back to your one.
You can keep talking about the pirate movie forever.
I know, you could.
Well,
where is Christopher Atkins now?
I saw him recently on some Where Are They Now? But he's doing fine. He's doing lots of little bits and pieces.
I reckon he would have held up well. Did he hold up well?
He's cute. Still cute. And his son looks like him in Blue Lagoon.
Whoa.
Without the curls. Yeah.
All right, Mary J. Latourneau, let's get back to that.
I get that reference, which is a worry.
Let's get back to the Are you writing anything at the moment?
Yes, Pia, I am. I'm writing Sam Kerr, soccer superstar Sam Kerr. I'm writing her junior fiction book series at the moment. So there's 5 in the series. 3 are written. The third one I'm doing a second draft of at the moment, and then there's 2 more due by April, I think. So writing those, and have just very recently this week been approached about writing.
Are you allowed to say
no,
anything?
I'm not going to say what it is, but I've been asked about writing another book for someone. So yeah, hopefully that'll happen, and then that'll keep me out of trouble.
And I am writing some scintillating shopping lists. Like some of these ingredients, it's really exciting on a day-to-day basis.
You write a lot of
I hear
emails
you.
for your job. Can I tell them what you wrote?
No, you can't. You can't.
So mean. He does a lot of writing for his job. He's the head of development at the Michael Castle Group. So he does a lot of creative.
It's a real job. You have a real job.
But a grown-up job.
I look like I have a real job because I'm in a shirt, but I've got tracksuit pants on. I've got tracksuit pants on down below.
Whereas I look like I should be felling trees.
You're like the last episode of Dexter without the beard. I'll get there.
You need one of those hats with the
yeah, you need one of those hats.
Yeah.
I do have some questions from, I want to say viewers, but they're not viewers.
Are they viewers? They're what?
People.
Yeah,
just people, lovely people. Karen in Bayswater wanted to know, when you were filming the Drop-Off web series, did you have any moments when any of you struggled with trying not to laugh and had to reshoot?
As you well know, Pia, every day. And I got in trouble from this one right here, because sometimes I might have laughed a little bit too much, and maybe I held up shooting for 5 minutes. But yes, Karen, there was a lot. And because we're all very good friends, so Pia, Mike and I and Christy and Scott all know each other very well. And so there's lots of little looks. When you know, as everyone knows, when you know people really well, you literally just have to give someone a side eye and it will set them off, and there's no coming back from that.
And the worst thing is when you know people really well, and then it's not like they do something funny. They look at you like, oh God, I'm scared, I'm going to laugh. And that's what sets you off.
That's all it needs to be.
But a lot of those bloopers are on the Drop-Off Facebook page. If you want to check them out, there's so many bloopers.
And you'll see Mike cracking it with you. You'll see when Mike...
You'll get a deep insight into our marriage in a way that I'm not comfortable with, but it's out there now. So... I just have to embrace it.
Well, I was having fun.
It's our own reality show.
You were. And remember, I really wanted, like, we had that party scene, and I really wanted real wine. But all the mums, like, you had got all the mums from school to be in the background, and they were all getting like on it.
So naughty.
On it.
So we had
really jealous.
We had our,
make me funnier.
Yeah.
We had our real school community at Ripponlea Primary,
which was amazing. Like we put out the call, and dozens of people were like, "Yeah, we'll turn up
for
free."
Yeah. So they all came and filled out this fundraiser scene that we have in the last episode, which Nicola, Pia's character, hosts, of course.
And this was the last night of the filming. So we'd stocked up on. We'd gotten some wine, and so we decided to use the bottles of wine as props. So it looked like we had real wine in the scene.
I got apple juice, by the way.
Yeah, I got apple juice too.
Me too.
Do you remember how much I had to drink?
Yeah, he was weeing for days.
I was unwell. I drank 9.5 litres of apple juice, but everyone else just got on it.
You know why? Because we had bought bottles of really lovely champagne and wine for the crew to give out as presents at the end of the night, and put them in the fridge in the kitchen, the canteen kitchen. Those mums and dads were sneaking into the canteen, because by that time they were drunk, because they'd hidden real bottles of wine under their props. And then they were going and taking that and drinking that as well. They were sloshed.
Is why we love them.
That's why we love them.
They're great.
They had a ball.
Now, Kim Stoney's just sent me a question. Did you find it hard to change the storylines for the characters in the pickup from what had been established in the Drop-Off web series?
That's a very good question. So, yeah, we ended up having to just decide that they were two separate entities. So, obviously, the characters are still exactly the same, their personalities, their lives. But a couple of things, really there's only one main thing that happens in the web series that is never acknowledged or has never happened in the books, which I won't say just in case people want to go and watch the web series. But there's one quite big thing that happens at the end of the Drop-Off web series that we never touched upon in the books.
No, because it would have put a bit of a spanner in the works as far as how to build a story, a longer form story around that. So
in answer to your question, Kim, it was a bit initially to get our heads around, all right, we have to kind of just take what we want from the web series and apply that to the books,
take
the world, the characters. But yeah, I guess if we went through all the episodes, it's really just that last episode
of season 2
is completely different to the books.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It does. And I did like that you didn't include, some people will know what we're talking about, but I did like that you didn't include that bit from the series in the book, because I think it would have given another storyline, it would have sort of diluted it a bit. So it's
too controversial.
Yeah, we're talking in code, but I definitely thought it was great, because I actually forgot about it when I was I got so into the pickup, I forgot about it when that new storyline happened, that I was sort of so invested in that I forgot that had happened in the web series. I feel like they feel like separate entities, like the books and the web series, definitely.
Well, I've had people say, you know, had never seen the web series, have read the book, had pictures in their heads of what all the characters look like, and then when they watch the web series, some people are like, they are exactly as I pictured them. And then some people say, oh my God, Megan looks nothing like,
which we love,
what I had in my head. So yeah, it's good, because, you know, it's just another level for people to go to with those characters and get, you know, a bit of a surprise.
Now, Karen in South Perth wants to know, Mike, are you appearing in any more musicals in the near future?
What was her name? Sorry, Pia?
Karen in South Perth.
Karen, I will not be appearing in any more musicals in the near future, purely because...
He has a grown-up job.
Don't finish my sentences or I'll divorce you.
Too late.
Because I've got this amazing new job that I love with Michael Castle, who is the producer who's got, you know, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child not running in Melbourne and Hamilton not running in Sydney. So I went through this little sort of crisis last year of thinking, what else might I want to do if I could never perform again? And I've ended up with this job that I find deeply exciting. I would never rule out performing again, because I am a raging egomaniac and crave the approval of an audience.
I can attest to that.
Who knows, down the track.
I think he will go back to performing at some point. He'll always perform when asked, like a monkey.
Yeah. There's just no opportunities really at the moment, because we're all locked inside.
Exactly. But once there are, he'll be back on that
However,
stage.
Karen, I would like to think that I will be an integral part of creating some really great new musicals for the world.
That will go to Perth.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere else you can put a musical on.
I want to go back to the Regal in Subiaco.
I meant to go to a wedding in Perth on the 29th of September. It's not happening, is it?
I don't think so. I'm sorry.
I have a dress. Okay. It's not about me. It's about you this whole night.
Like this.
I have a really good dress.
Dress with this backdrop and it'll be great.
Yeah.
They'll love seeing you.
Ben in Morley wants to know how we're going in Sydney with the lockdown. But actually, Ben, we're in Melbourne. So we're on lockdown. We're on day 200 and what of lockdown? 10?
Who the hell knows?
Ben in Morley. We're actually not in Sydney. All of us are in Melbourne. So, you know,
we're used to it.
How are you guys going?
Yeah, well, look, we're over it. To be honest, all my stress and worry and waking at 3 a.m. is to do with our kids.
Oh, the kids, yeah.
Is to do with the kids. It breaks my heart. They're both teenagers. They're just missing their friends. They're missing school. They're missing their sport. They're missing their social life. That is what, I don't care about us. We're fine. We're working. We can, you know, we have a lot of walks with friends and FaceTimes, and that's fine because we know it will end. But these kids, they're not going to get these years back. And so that is what upsets me. That's why I want it to be over.
Give me a happy ending.
It's the little milestones, I think, like just today, I think we're all feeling a little hopeful in Melbourne yesterday, and then today probably not so. And I had that weird moment because you've got a daughter in year 12, I've got a daughter in grade 6, and I really wanted her, as you would, to have that last year of primary school or that last year of high school experience. And the fear of them not having that, like the fear that she might not go back to school this year and finish year 6.
Oh, don't even say that. How are you coping, Pia? You're in ISO.
I've been all right. I'm in ISO because I went to the wrong Woolies.
Honestly,
I've had so many COVID tests. I'm vaccinated, and I wear a mask. It's fine. But if you go to a tier 2 in Melbourne, I guess a lot of Perth people don't know.
You know, I've never, ever, ever had a COVID test.
Oh. I know. You should move 12 Tony North, love, because you'll get one once a week.
I ain't going to that side of town if you paid me.
Yeah, you go to the wrong one.
Sound like you're ready for that side of town.
That's where I grew up, mate.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. But, I think, I'm a bit the same. I think today I got more worried about the kids, knowing we'll be okay. But it's a long time, and it's the weird little things. Like, I think we've in Melbourne, I think everyone's so lucky in Perth. I've got a lot of friends in Perth, and so I like talking to them and hearing about what they're doing. I think I'm a little bit like, what happens if we do open up? What am I going to wear? How do I talk to people? Like, I don't know how to behave in the world if I had, all that kind of stuff. It's starting to get a little bit Stockholm syndrome for me.
I think you could wear that shirt anywhere because it's lovely.
And my tracksuit pants.
And your Uggies.
I'll be fine.
Good combo.
Now, I had a question for you.
Oh, bring it on.
One I wrote. What's it been like promoting in lockdown? And would you consider doing a third version called The Lockup?
Oh, okay. No.
Whoa. I think that's a solid idea.
That is super pressing for words. I don't want to ever see Lizzie, Sam, Megan and Dave locked up anywhere. That would be a tragedy. Look, we'd always be open to a third book. It's just about waiting to see how well this one sells. Because if it does what the drop-off did, then we might have a third book. And there's one in the arsenal just floating around, little idea. So, yeah. I told you. He doesn't listen to me.
I don't listen to anything.
Doesn't listen to me. I told him.
We've stopped listening to our partners in lockdown, I think.
It's called The Put Down.
Ah. What about babies, like trying to get them to sleep?
No, it's about the idea that's floating around is about one of the parents, possibly Lizzie, saying something that she probably shouldn't say to a child at school, and it may be kicking off some kind of controversy.
So like the slap light.
The slap without the violence.
Like Jazanthropus.
Wow, that is a 5%er right there, Pia Miranda.
Everyone's going to Google Jazanthropus now.
And you should do
Please do.
Because that is a cancelled comedian, but he's also very, very funny.
That is exactly what it would be. It's a Jazanthropus scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And someone or a few people would overhear her.
But I love to hear that you're making Lizzie the real focus of this next book.
Why? Should she not be?
No, I just love hearing that you're making.
Oh, you're being serious?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
No, I was being.
I can tell Mike's being a little sarcastic.
My God, from across the bridge, you can tell I'm 3 inches from your face.
Just so you know, that is like one incident for the whole book.
You don't have to get defensive about a book we
haven't
read yet.
I can't say anything about the book because I don't want to give the twists away.
No.
So many twists.
So many.
Like, there's actually 2. There's 2 twists.
Yep.
There's 2 big twists.
Just 2?
And I'm not saying anything about it, but the resolution of Lizzie, I loved.
Oh, good.
Me
I'm
too.
glad
I really, I mean, it made me emotional because I think we've all, and no one knows what I'm talking about, but I think we've all been through similar things, and I just thought it was really fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it was deep, it was hopeful, it was wonderful. It's worth reading the book just for the last chapter.
Oh, you're too nice, love.
Sometimes. Right, so we've got 12 minutes and I've run out of questions. What do you want to do?
Let's just talk about, what are you watching on Netflix at the moment?
Oh.
Well, I got really desperate last, so I did White Lotus. Just because Mike White played Survivor, and so I kind of got it from Mike White.
We should ask you about Survivor. Let's ask you a question about Survivor. So, Pia, 2 years down the track, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. 2 years down the track, how, when you look back now, what's your first gut reaction when you think about that experience?
Thank God I won, or I would be spending a lot of money on therapy.
Can you tell us the one worst, what's your worst memory?
Oh, Jesus.
Right, that's exciting. I know what it's
I almost drowned, actually.
Yeah. And they did they?
No. So, yeah, I think that was the worst, just having a moment of going, I might die out here. And yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, I think that was the worst. The best was, meeting new people, like really nice people. So that was good.
Who you're still friends with?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think reality TV is pretty weird. I think, yeah, it's pretty.
I don't know if I could do it.
Having your sort of knowledge of, because we know that you were such a huge fan of the show for so long and had this amazing aspiration to go on it and win it. Going in with the knowledge that you have, sort of as an entertainment showbiz veteran, were you concerned even before you started that the way that you wouldn't have any control about the way you'd be presented once they edited the show? Or did I
think I was really naive.
Did you factor that into the way you behaved?
No, I think I was really naive. I think Survivor's an unusual thing where how you are on the beach, but then you will go away and do interviews for 5 hours and they will tell you what to say. And I think you're just tired, and I was kind of naive where I would just say what they told me to say. Whereas other people who were there who knew reality TV wouldn't do that. I just wasn't very savvy. I probably should have been, but I was really zero focused that I was going to win it.
And you did. Now I've got one more question for you.
Why don't you write a book about it?
Yes, maybe we could write that together. We could write a book.
My question was going to be, Pia, have you got any projects, any exciting projects coming up, like maybe a show or a book or a podcast?
You know what's really funny? Actually, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It's because, actually, Fiona, that's so weird. I was about to talk about the podcast, and then I realised you and I were doing it together. Sorry, just threw me. Yes, Fiona, you and I are working on a podcast at the moment, and basically it's a podcast based on the lessons that we've learned and the regrets we've had. So the idea is that we had a chat about what we wish our parents had told us, and if you could go back and give yourself advice, what would you tell yourself?
Very specific ages, like 17 to 20, that window of time when you're kind of on the cusp of becoming an adult proper, and then you kind of are an adult proper, but not really.
Are you going to do it per year, like at 1 year, one season for the 17-year-old, one season for the 18-year-old?
I don't think so.
Well, I think the thing is that we've made lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
But those mistakes have informed us. And I think if you can just impart your wisdom onto other people and let them learn from your mistakes.
Failures.
Yeah. Mistakes, failures. I think it's really easy to look at people like you or Mike or myself and go, well, great, these are really successful people, but the trail and the path to that success is a lot of failure, a lot of rejection, a lot of tears. And so just being really open about that, I think, is a conversation that we don't have enough these days.
I couldn't agree more. And I feel like it's like, even when I have conversations like this with our daughters, I feel like they're never going to be able to process, you know, the experience that we're describing and translate that to their lives. But if they can learn that making mistakes and failing is a part of learning life and getting better as a person, then you're
maybe we'll get Mike McLeish on as one of our first guests.
That's a good idea. Okay, Mike, I've got a question for you then. What's your worst job interview audition experience that you can think of, or Fiona, whoever can think of the worst one ever?
I've gone.
Okay, go.
So I auditioned for The Bodyguard, the musical, when it first came to Australia, and I auditioned for a role that was like, it was like the head of the FBI or something, and one of the American creatives was out. And so before I had to do any singing or anything else, I had to do this scene. And it's one of those briefs that you get where I read it and I'm like, no, I'm not getting this, but I'm going to go for it because it'd be a great job for a little while. And so I went in there and I did the scene. And then this guy who was in there, who was American, and I'll do my American accent just to illustrate how right he might have been. He was like, okay, I'm just going to tell you about how the American accent works. So we speak through to the end of a sentence. We don't just let our sentences just trim. So do you feel like you'd want to have another try at that? And I said, no, I'm good, and left. So it was kind of my worst audition.
For the actor.
It was kind of my worst audition.
I'm proud of you.
Because I was like, you know what? And excuse my language, folks, but fuck this noise. I'm not here for this.
We get too old and grumpy.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, because I would have been so needy. I would have been like, try again, and just done a worse job the second time. Sure. How about you?
Because Pia, the same day that was my audition that morning, then my audition that afternoon was for Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which I actually ended up getting into. And I think the fact that I had this sense of everyone can just...
Don't swear again.
I didn't. I just did double...
That's great.
Double
That's
middle
just
digits.
As bad.
I think the fact that I had that feeling going into that audition,
yeah,
you know, just like, throw caution to the wind. This is what I do. I hope you like it. If you don't, I don't care. And the director of that show, the Broadway director of that show, who was there at those auditions, who's the loveliest man. And I think it just made all the difference, suddenly being confronted with this really lovely human and me having a sense of, I can just do what I do and either this is going to work or not. I think that led to me getting that job and having a really wonderful experience on that job, which was kind of my last main stage musical.
We've only got 4 minutes.
I want to talk more about me. The thing about musicals...
All right, enough. We've lost one already.
I did like that.
I don't even have time for... We've got like 4 minutes, so...
No, you've got this, go.
No, because mine's... I don't think mine's that exciting. It was for Muriel's wedding and I had to sing, and I'm not a singer. And I had to sing along with the pianist, and it was the most embarrassing experience.
Can you say that again? You couldn't sing along with the what?
Pianist.
Oh.
Filthy. And the people on the panel, I knew a couple of them, and they were looking at me like, what are you
I hate that.
doing? And I, in the end, just literally went, la, 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 no, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sorry. And thank God the acting bit went well, but the singing was the most humiliating experience of my life. Let's put it that way. She literally walked me out like this.
Auditioning's great. Auditioning's great.
It's great.
It can be good, but most of the time it's humiliating.
Yeah. I love an audition if it's just acting, not singing.
Yeah.
Not my wheelhouse. Anyway, we've only got 3 minutes. What should we talk about for 3 minutes? Should we? Do you think anyone's really even still listening?
Of course they are. Look, Tina's there, Penny's there, Colleen, Kim, they're all there. We are open to any and all suggestions because we've run out of entertaining things to say. There's a piano behind me. There's a guitar behind me. I will play Wonderwall if needs be. So any way we can avoid me playing Wonderwall,
yes, please,
is for the best. Because
oh no, we can't hear you, P. You've gone mute.
Neither Liam nor...
Ow!
There you are.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
I was about to say, I want to hear Fiona sing Wonderwall. Here it goes. Here she goes.
No.
Do you need the lyrics?
That's just me.
Play a song from Beautiful.
Wonderwall.
Wait, Colleen wants you to play a song from Beautiful.
That's a much better idea, Colleen. Much better
God.
idea.
All right, Colleen, I'll play you the first little bit.
You're my Wonderwall. Can't remember how that song starts. How can I not remember how Wonderwall? That was loud.
We all know that song.
You're going to sing?
Well, maybe. Stay around all morning just to pass the time. Something more than that we don't deny.
I think that's it because we're saying goodbye now. Oh, please take it away and play us out, Mike.
Oh, play us out.
Today was going to be the day that was supposed to be entertaining to you. By now we should have somehow realized how to talk to you. How to believe that anybody speaks the way we do about us now. That be the words of the street and firing your heart out.
Oh, it's 1 minute.
Oh, do I keep going?
I know you've heard it all before, but I never really had a doubt.
Oh. I know you heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody
Everyone, sing along.
feels the way I do about us.
And all the roads we have to walk are winding. Pia, why aren't you singing? And all
I
the
couldn't.
lights the way of life.
It's a bit low for me. It's a bit low.
I'd like to say to you, but I don't know how.
8 o'clock.
Because maybe.
Hey! Thank you. Good night.